From high places to hot places to places that are full of toxic fumes. We are back with a part 2 of the top 10 terrifying uninhabitable places where people actually live. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the Tibetan Plateau. It is well known that when a person is at altitudes that are higher than 2,400 meters or 8,000 feet, there are negative effects on the body such as altitude sickness or high altitude pulmonary edema. It's not something that just anyone can do without experiencing side effects, and that is exactly why those who live in the Tibetan Plateau are so incredible. Often referred to as the roof of the world, the Tibetan Plateau sits at an average of 4,500 meters or 14,800 feet. It's covered in glaciers and sees more hail than it does rain or snow because of these heights. Despite all the challenges that would come with living in an environment like this, nomadic herdsmen are dispersed throughout this region, even in the most inhospitable regions such as the Changtang region, where the altitude is even higher than the average and the temperatures are the lowest out of the entire plateau, leaving little to no vegetation besides grass for livestock. I think one of the reasons why this place, despite its seemingly inhospitable environment, is still inhabited is because of the fact that the earliest human occupation of the plateau is thought to have happened around 30,000 to 40,000 years ago. That's some deep roots, and it's a clear testament to those that still live there. In our number 9 spot today, we have Lake Nyos. Lake Nyos is located in Cameroon, and it is different from any regular old lake because of the volcanic crater that it sits in. The magma floor releases carbon dioxide into both the water and the surrounding air, making it a less than ideal place to live and breathe. Usually the CO2 just dissipates into the air, mostly harmlessly, but in 1986 there was a limnic eruption that caused catastrophe. A limnic eruption is very rare, but it's what happens when dissolved carbon dioxide suddenly erupts from lake waters, which then goes on to form a gas cloud. The resulting gas cloud is extremely dangerous and is capable of displacing the oxygen in the area, which of course is lethal to any living thing, which is exactly what happened in 1986. This limnic eruption caused a noxious cloud of more than 1 million tons of CO2. This ended up taking the lives of 1,700 people in the area, as well as the 3,500 livestock, which made it the first known large-scale asphyxiation caused by a natural event. Despite the threat of another eruption, as well as the lake's weakening walls that could result in a massive flood, people have resettled the area around the lake. I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't risk it, which makes me wonder why these people chose here. I'm sure there's gotta be a reason. In our number 8 spot today, we have Zabol. This city is located in Iran, and it is an absolute hotspot for dust storms. The summer season is where the worst of it is seen, with what is known as the 120-day winds. This is when dust and other matter absolutely bombards the city, which is due to the disappearance of the wetlands as well as the extremely high temperatures seen in the region. These dust storms aren't just inconvenient, they're actually very dangerous for those who live in the area. So much so that every year officials hand out thousands of air pollution masks to help prevent the damage that these storms can cause to the lungs. In 2016, the city was named as the most polluted city in the world by the World Health Organization, and a study in 2017 even found that the damage from breathing this air for 30 minutes outweighs the benefit of 30 minutes of cycling, meaning it is exceptionally detrimental. In our number 7 spot today, we have St. Kilda. St. Kilda is the most remote settlement of the British Isles, and it is so isolated that it is often cut off by storms for weeks, and sometimes even months at one time. That is most likely the reason as to why the previous inhabitants had developed a culture, economy, and government that was completely separate and different to their English rulers. Unfortunately, between missionaries and officials coming to the island in an attempt to change their way of life that was working perfectly fine for them, their sources of income dwindling, births not being able to keep up with the death rate and the emigration rate, combined as well with the inevitable disease-ridden tourists coming to their island for whatever reason, things for those who once lived on this island changed drastically, and it was decided that they would evacuate the island in 1930. Since then, people have tried to resettle the island, but none have remained permanently, likely because of the isolation. In our number 6 spot today, we have Spratly Islands. This is a group of islands whose ownership is claimed by multiple countries. Definitely a bit of a conflict. The reason so many countries want to lay claim to these islands is because of their strategic position for military and shipping in the South China Sea. The islands are in the midst of vast fishing grounds, and it is believed that they might house deposits of oil and natural gas. So, in terms of countries fighting for these islands, there's China, Taiwan, and Vietnam that lay claim to all all of the islands, with Malaysia and the Philippines claiming smaller portions of the entire group. Because of this controversy over who these islands actually belong to, there aren't any permanent settlements that exist on these islands, but all 5 of these countries occupy them with military forces. It is also said that China has begun to build artificial islands in the area, which has come under scrutiny as this is quite harmful and detrimental to local coral reefs. In our number 5 spot today we have Surtsey Island. Okay, this island isn't terrifying per se, but it is exceptionally interesting. So basically, this island was born in 1963, and by that I mean it emerged from the sea in that year just off of the coast of Iceland after 4 years of being formed by an undersea volcano. A brand new island? What could we possibly do with that? While I'm sure humans could find 1,000,001 ways to ruin it, surprisingly we decided not to do that at all. Instead, this island was protected in order to allow scientists to study how new ecosystems form and what happens when there's no human involvement. This means that while there isn't a permanent settlement here, there are scientists who come to study on the island, and they have very strict rules to adhere to. One of these rules is no seeds and no using the facilities on the island. That last rule is because one day when scientists found a tomato growing on the island, they were quite confused as to how. Turns out somebody had gone number 2 not too long before, and thus a new poop tomato was grown from the ground. That's terrifying, a poop tomato. In our number 4 spot today we have Centralia. Located in Pennsylvania, this town is often referred to as one of the gateways to hell. That is due to the fire that spread in an underground coal mine underneath the town in 1962. Despite the years it's been, the fire still blazes underground, which causes the smoke and poisonous gases to rise up and out, not only causing an eerie appearance, but a serious health hazard as well. The temperatures can be so hot in areas that one guy's backyard was measured at 626 degrees Fahrenheit. Sometimes the fire will also burn through supports underground, which in the end turns into a sinkhole. This has caused pets, wildlife, and residents to unsuspectingly get swallowed up into the hole. In 1984, the US government ordered a total evacuation of the town, but a handful of residents refused to leave and even went to court over their right to stay in the town for as long as they live. In our number 3 spot today we have Kabwe. Located in Zambia, this place has been described as the world's most toxic town. The toxins in this town are due to the previous century of mining and smelting, which led to generations being exposed to unbelievable amounts of toxins and a mass lead poisoning. The plants closed in 1994, but at that point the damage had already been done. The population of 220,000 people that still live here are still exposed to lead in the dust and soil that is 10 times the US safety limit, but they stay out of necessity. At this point in time, the World Bank is now conducting a $65 million remediation project, and while that is great news, nothing can be done for all of the people who had to deal with this for the last century and a half. In our number 6 spot today we have Wittenoom. This place in Australia is the home of a former blue asbestos mine, which is exactly what makes it one of the most contaminated places in the country. I mean this literally. The roads were paved with asbestos even after the mine shut down in 1966. While this city was once the home to 20,000 residents, the population dropped significantly after the deaths of 300 former mine workers from mesothelioma. Apparently it was decided that it would be too expensive to clean up the town, so instead the government just declared it unfit to inhabit and took it off the maps. While most people have since left the town, it is said that 3 residents refused to leave and still remain in the almost completely abandoned town. In our number 1 spot today we have La Oroya. Located in Peru, this town has a population of 30,000 people despite the metal smelter contamination that has been seen since 1922. The smelter closed in 2009 after the company that ran it declared bankruptcy, but here's how that happened in the first place. The American-owned company ran out of money because they had to fund the environmental cleanup and the anti-pollution measures. Seems like maybe they should have chosen a different path. Seems like it didn't pay off to pollute someone else's air. I guess they forgot that there's consequences for actions. It still remains as one of the most polluted areas in the entire world, and the toxic metals have gone on to infect the water, the soil, and the air. While it is completely unsafe to live there, people still do, and sadly, they suffer the extreme adverse effects of it. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!